What up, traders? What up, investors? How are you guys doing out there? Hope everyone's doing fantastic. Just double checking a couple more microphone settings and so forth here. Getting ready, getting a nice little refreshment here. We have some San Pellegrino sparkling natural mineralized carbonated water. Costco got like a big case of these for like 20 bucks, less than 20 bucks because it was on sale quite substantially. So grab your favorite beverage. We got a lot to talk about. Currently looking at the futures market, we have the S&P 500 down nearly 0.5%. We have the RUT, which is again the Russell 2000, basically somewhat leading here at being down nearly 0.85% there, and as well NASDAQ being a little bit of a lagger and at only a 0.36. We got the fear index, aka the VIX, up around 3%. Again, this is due to whatever reasons. We've hit some pretty extreme levels in the market here. Especially you can see here on the Fibonacci retracements, we have hit that 3,800, 3,827 before. Alan, thank you, my friend, for joining, my friend. You got any tickers you want to be looking at, my friend? Just put them down in the the live chat, whatever they call it now. That is extra sprinkles in there, or sparkling in there. Again, I don't think this comes off to anyone's surprise, to be quite honest, on somewhat of a pullback, because again, the mountain of basically a very extreme bullish that we've seen here in the last coming weeks has been very, very, very positive here. Hey, that just happened. What's up, my friend? Hello, love the name. Yeah, so the one that's really leading the most is, of course, the RUT, the Russell, again, I'm saying the RUT, but it's the Russell 2000. This is the one that really led us higher substantially due to the overall market. This is definitely has been the smaller caps, especially the North America, US-based companies. A lot of these fall into the Russell 2000 index. And of course, you've seen the pop from everything from regional banks to banks and other various sections that have been really much stricken on growth. So, yeah. Alan, I'm happy I left one share of Tesla. Hey, it's hard. It's hard out there, isn't it? Again, we'll see how Tesla opens up tomorrow. I'm a little iffy, honestly, on the NIO stuff. A little bit in the NIO day. I think that bubble is getting a little bit too big. Are you drinking Red Bull? No, I'm drinking a San Pellegrino. I'm not allowed to drink Red Bull via my doctor. A couple years ago, my doctor said, "Stop drinking Red Bull, you idiot." So I said, "Okay." Let's see here. Hey, just happening. Thoughts on IPOF? Yeah, so IPOF. So again, you have to be very careful with these IPOs. They're really just running on exactly no news. They're just really creating this premium in the stock right now because of Chamath. Yes, I love Chamath too. Do I own IPOF? Yes, but when did I buy it? Every morning I go out and I look if IPOF. Well, I did IPOD, IPOE, IPOF, and then what was it? Yeah, every single day I check it once the new one is listed, and I just buy 100 shares of it or whatever at like $10 or $11. And I've been holding this for a little bit of time, around the December timeframe, and it's been a nice move higher. Of course, with IPOE, you've seen that huge boost higher because again, the news was dropped. Chamath went on CNBC and said, boom, we're going to bring SoFi public. This is why they're fucking fantastic. Oh, I just cursed. I'm sorry. They're flipping fantastic, and they're going to kill it. Done. That's how he does it. All right, folks, let's see here. Thank you guys for coming out now. Hey, Ken, hope you're doing well. Any picks for long-term portfolio? Honestly, it's a little difficult to say for long-term right now, just because of the market that we're currently in. I love some longer-term stuff like the chips, But my only concern with these, like the chips, the Twitters, the Snapchats, things like that, are a little bit difficult. The ones I honestly like right now and sounds super boring is the banks. I know it sounds really boring, as the kids would say, boring AF. This has been a pretty good move because, again, what I'm looking at, not saying inflation is just going to kick in overnight or whatsoever, but we are hitting somewhat of a wall. I shared it with the folks on the Discord, and just, again, I'm a numbers guy. I like statistics of stuff, so I wanted to show this site. Basically, again, I can put this in. I'll link this in the comment section. So what I'm looking at here is basically the seasonal rationale and just the seasonal rational moves in the market. As you can see here, basically the January to the March timeframes have been very much flat over the last 5 to 15 years on average. Doesn't mean there's an outlier one year that could happen, but on an average, you see very much just kind of a sideways action. Of course, the 5-year composite really took a dip because of the pandemic, and that really took a large move down lower. I could probably get the camera out of the way. With that being said, you can see here that dip here with the composites, looking at here to the side here. And thank you. I'm sorry. I got super excited here. I got super excited. I wasn't able to show you the chart here. But with looking at these two seasonal, I don't know, occurrences, or if you're just talking about just the probability of things, statistics of things, this is what I'm talking about, is of like looking in just not the wall of worry, but like I'm really looking at the blue line more or less. Again, between January 17th, again, that's coming up, not this week, but the following week, we always get a pretty nasty pullback down there. So I'm really keeping my eye on, again, I'm being very, if I do add anything long, it's going to have to be coming back lower where it's currently sitting. Alexander, what do you think about SPY puts right now? Do you think Tesla reversal might be a catalyst for the red February? I don't know if Tesla's it's going to take a lot more than just Tesla to bring the overall market lower. I think it could just be more of a larger event that we just don't know about that could bring us lower. I'm not saying that because Tesla or the EVs are shrinking off and there's going lower. The market's substantially larger than just Tesla and the EV markets. Again, you're talking about billions and trillions of dollars in banks and bonds and other various assets that are just really no pun intended, trump this overall other market. Of course, the virus can bring it lower. We just saw that in March. Of course, any kind of financial issues in the sense of banks, we saw that in 08, 09. And then anyone just tweeting really stupid stuff on the internet can really actually move the markets as well. And I'm not saying I'm going to be pointing my finger at that potentially happening. He's been banned, so it's going to be hard for him to tweet something, but more or less to look at like, hey, 2020 was a crazy flipping year, and I think most folks have not really put those two, that equation in their head yet on how much money was made last year. I know there's a lot of money on the sidelines. I know there's a lot of money that's increasing on savings accounts. Like the amount of credit card debt and savings, credit card debt has gone down, and same with savings has gone up for the average consumer that hasn't been really too affected financially from the virus and the pandemic. We are just kind of sitting and waiting for a potential resurgence of this stuff. So if I'm buying something long term, I'm going to be really looking at like a Disney. I'm going to be looking at the airlines, potentially the hospitalities, and some of those cyclical stuff that have not been performing as well as they have in the past year. But for SPY puts, it's going to be a little bit difficult. I'm not usually a person that just goes short something. If I do go short, I usually just sell some futures on it because I can get in and out of super fast. With puts, you have to be super, super mindful of, okay, you have to really hit the nail on the head or the hammer on the nail, whatever they say. Because what it comes down to is all about the deltas, the thetas, and so forth in those options. Especially if you're buying like, Oh, I have this all messed up. I was messing with this earlier. Let's go here. We have to adjust this. Let's do mark. We're going to do open interest. And we're going to do, sorry, folks. Let me just update this real fast. Can I do theoretical price? Theo price. There we go. And then we'll leave the delta there. So again, when this really comes into fruition, you're really looking at the potential moves in this, and you really have to be calculating those puts dramatically, because if everyone just runs to the put side of everything and just goes for it, it's not really my cup of tea, Alexander. Again, I think at this point, I'm not really fast on the keyboard, so the put side of things is not really my cup of tea because I have to be really fast on it. GTFO, you make a great point, that we have no idea when the top is going to be because Trump can no longer tweet. David's asking about PSTHN can continue to run. Again, they haven't announced anything from my knowledge, so the Silver Fox hasn't texted me or called me, aka Bill Ackman hasn't told me anything on what he's doing. I think it's just really on just a lot of speculations, especially you have Chamath going out looking really dapper as himself, always in a really nice suit, usually with a nice little brooch. What's the thing when they put in the pocket? I don't know what it's called. Always looking fly on CNBC and every podcast he does. But with this really just pumping higher here, this is just all premium being pumped into this. This is just everyone expecting them to buy the next whatever company, and they're just really inflating the price. There is no real substance to this deal yet, because we have no idea what the deal is. Alan says SMG Suns Nichols G Pro I got in at 170, waiting for a dip to add more. What's the good looking chart say? Have I looked at that one? SMG? Oh yes, we have. Okay, wow. Yeah, so the funny thing you bring this up, Alan, because I was looking at John Deere. So this is everything to do with like agriculture, I believe, and gardening and whatever. This is insane amount of moves here. What is the company? I bought in some shares of longer dated stuff, and I totally sold it out like a schmuck. I should have held it longer. But looking at this really increased prices here, hitting an all-time high on Friday, yeah, I think you have the right mindset, Alan. This is a little bit inflated. You can kind of see here, a little bit far away from the 21 and the 8 EMA. If we do get a pullback in the short term, we're going to be looking for some support around 211 to 210, and then substantial more support around 200, and then down to 190. So not going to be too much to be able to add on that. We can look at some potential targets to the upside. They're not going to be that precise in these fibs due to the fact of the pullback has not set in place yet. But 270 if that trend goes higher, but that's not going to be very much helpful for those analyses there. Everyone with the lawn uses a SMG. Yeah, true. Yeah, true. I'm gonna wait for that stuff to go on Costco though. I always get that stuff on Costco. GTFO, yes, he will definitely find a way. He'll send like a carrying pigeon to everyone's house to let him know that he is the coolest man alive. JP Morgan, I saw some JP Morgan stuff from Fish and someone else. So JP Morgan, again, like we talked about at the beginning of the hour, I believe that banks will be going higher. We have potential large stimuluses going out. We have potential inflation going up. We have longer term yields. We have the 10-year yield going higher. Of course, that's going to be better for banks. And we have a potentially, again, not fully understanding of the markets in the sense of potentially interest rates going higher. Again, not maybe in the first half of this year. Maybe the Fed could be talking about it towards the tail end of 2021. Again, those banks love those interest rates higher. So, and again, the market moves that we're seeing in banks, like you would think that JP Morgan had the cure for cancer with this kind of moving like this. So being very well aware of these very bullish moves in the banks is kind of some folks showing their hands on what potentially we could see. Because JP Morgan, we're looking at basically some overhead pressure at its previous high around 140. We've kind of hit that in a couple hairs from there, but we're looking for definitely over some resistance again. We are still seeing the market come down a little bit. We're almost at a 0.87 here for the rut. We're a little bit over 0.5% now for the SPY. But again, this is not a sell off and a crazy just run to the bank and get all your cash out ASAP kind of move. This is very much not a pullback. It's not even like this is just like some. I don't think people have seen red in a while. So there was red, of course, on Wednesday. No pun intended on that one either. But we definitely saw some give back in the options market or the futures market tonight. That could completely change tomorrow morning. You have to be very well aware of that. Well, the interest rates, they can say they're not going to raise until 2023, but the Federal Reserve can reposition themselves. Oh, it's a backdoor marijuana play. Okay, interesting. Oh, hydroponic. Okay. I wonder if Alpaca knows all that stuff. Someone's saying Big C, plug. Oh, what's up, Samir? Plug Roku, please. Yeah, plug again. You have to be careful with that. That was again, it got a huge influx of capital over the last basically 2 days towards the end of the week. Really gapped up multiple days. A little bit concerning here. Again, gap up days usually means a lot of crazy momentum. If this doesn't keep up, if we don't stay above that $50 to $52 range, we can kind of come back pretty hard down to the 40, even down to 36. With that being said, that is something we definitely need to be on the lookout for, even though if the market does want to sell off tomorrow or do whatever. Again, I can't predict anything, but if the trend wants to stick higher, we need to stay above $50 to $52 in that side. But we are pretty much very at like I think it was almost a 3 deviation move in a very short period of time up there. And then you just talked about Roku. And talk about another crazy move. I hope you're in these stocks there, my friend. We broke past that 379 level and now hitting an unknown territory, meaning that we are potentially looking for staying above 379 or 380. So now this previously overhead pressure now comes down as downward support, with the target still being around 450 to 466. I think it was going quite new, Samir, correct me if I'm wrong, that they are getting into the content business now. They bought some kind of channel group or something. Again, I'm not very much a day-to-day person in this industry, but looking at Roku really gobbling things up here at the same time of just growing their overall technology behind of just basically getting in every single one's smart TV. Big C. Yeah, so Big C is trying to come back again. I was corrected. This is the e-commerce play in Austin. We are kind of hit a bottom here at an all-time low. This is somewhat of a newer IPO, so I'm a little bit got to be careful on it and pump the brakes here a little bit. I think this really spooked a lot of people over here on this crazy hype train, getting up to like 162. And this is somewhat normal to kind of see this chop. Again, if we need to see a little bit longer term play, maybe 1 or 2 more quarters, maybe we gotta get a fair price at that time. But as of right now, it's really much in a somewhat chop mode. To really get in the short term to get back above into the positive trend, we'd really need to break above the $67 to $70 range and stay above here and get the 5 and 8 moving averages to break above the yellow line or the 21 EMA and potentially start getting up to that 200 EMA around $80 to kind of get out of that negative pressure going there. Tesla's my retirement plan, David. I think Tesla's in a lot of people's retirement plan, but I think people say that now. But once Tesla does pull back, and they're gonna just get out of it. Like I've seen it happen so many times. Ba 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 ba. It's Earl. What's up, my friend? Your thoughts on VST and ED? VST. Hmm. Yeah, a little bit of chop here, and it's trying to get above the 200 EMA here via the chart around 19. Not sure what this industry or what the stock is in, but really looking for this. If it has any staying power, it looks like it has a little bit overhead pressure here. Let me do a fib here for you real fast. It looks like it was really hit hard by the pandemic here. Let me go here. Come on, there we go. Oh, okay, yeah. So look at this. Previous swing high to low, a lot of overhead resistance at $20, basically just call it $21. If we can get above that and stay above that, we're going to be looking for 22, potentially some overhead pressure, and then 23. But it looks like we have some pretty strong support around the 1938 level to the downside. And guys, please don't forget to hit the like button as well if you enjoy the content or if you learn something, or I help grow your brain just ever so slightly, because it helps me purchase more of my San Pellegrino for my local Costco. What else we got here? FUBO, yes, this one is the streaming sports service, right? Yeah, this one, again, kind of like we just looked at Big C. It had that huge run higher, shook a lot of people out, and once it started correcting, and now we're looking to potentially try to stay above the 2588 level. The 2588 level is basically the red line here, which is the 50 SMA here, which we've seen support on a multitude of stocks. Again, the 50 SMA on the daily chart is a super strong indicator for anyone who's been trading for 30 days or 30 years. The 50 SMA is basically a standard on majority of the charts. But this is really coming down and hitting that SMA here, the 50 SMA, and it's also hitting a Fibonacci retracement at 2588. If it stays above that, it's going to be potentially could kind of get somewhat of a rebound and maybe kind of rebalance and maybe build out a very nice long base, or maybe try to, I don't know, make a V-shaped recovery. But we're really looking for this to kind of stop bleeding and really looking for this to kind of level off here, because we are seeing the 5 and 8 moving averages kind of start curling a little bit, but they're still somewhat pointing at a downward degree angle as well. So I'm a little bit slightly concerned on that, to potentially maybe see that kind of level off here a little bit and maybe try to get back above 30. But this is kind of the one, like, you can maybe nibble at it around the $25 range, but I wouldn't be dumping in full size for this one without a doubt. Greg says, "Hey Ken, how do you use volume indicators?" I'm not sure that is something that volume indicators. You mean like the blue volume bars, Greg? Oh, the volume indicators. Okay, so like the volume zone. Okay, okay. So perfect example here. You can kind of see with the movement down in FUBO, we did hit a very extreme level on the bottom part of the volume zone oscillator. Again, very negative, and negative 65. That's pretty negative. That really potentially coincides, potentially, if it does want to rebound off of moving averages, that we could get not a complete V-shaped recovery, but it could be a slowing down momentum and maybe starting to stop its very heavy descent down. At the same time, the RSI wasn't also printing lower, so that was kind of potentially a sign of the pilot of the plane of FUBO being able to pull the joystick back and able to get it back into flying in a flying formation pattern. Can we look at SBE? let's switch back or whatever. Yeah, this is an interesting one without a doubt as well. With this one, again, it's been holding that yellow line, the 21 EMA, very well. Looking at some overhead pressure on 45, I think, again, if the EV stocks come out shooting tomorrow like at an okay crowd and just trying to light up the market and feed and try to shoot down the bears that potentially can be going after it, I think this could definitely go higher to that $45 range. Is going to be basically somewhat of an overhead pressure, and the parabolic SER dots around 47. But short-term support is going to be around 38 and then even 35. But we've seen some support coming in around $32 level, and that's kind of where I have my alert going out as of right now to potentially see if I can get maybe a little bit of nibble, a little bit of cheddar off of this one for a potential slight trade there. Oh, my chat just updated. What do you think about MSTR? Yeah, this is the one that, oh shoot, knocked over my pencil here. Got my little notebook here for my notes. Yeah, so this is the one that had the large incorporation of Bitcoin, correct? They used some of their assets or cash on hand to purchase Bitcoin, and it kind of got a little bit of press from that, and they got a little hyped up from that. You can kind of see here I had a limit here to kind of potentially get into this level around the 21 EMA. I should have put it a little bit closer to kind of keep an eye on it. That would have been fantastic and have been a wonderful trade to purchase some options around the $270 range a month out, and seeing it go up like this would have been a beautiful payday. But that's the name of the game. I missed it. But looking for this one as well, this has been flying a little too close to the sun, as they say, and I'm waiting for this one as well to kind of maybe get a potential pullback. Short-term pullback going to be kind of coming in between like 475 to like 450. I know those are really large ranges, but we're talking about a $500 stock, and then basically trying to come back down to around the 400 to the 383 range, around the 200 or the 21 EMA there. Yes, Tesla. I saw some folks talk about that. Let's go ahead and look at that. Yes. Tesla, of course, it prints money. Everyone is a millionaire now if they own Tesla. Why didn't everyone just put in $10,000 at Tesla when it went public 11 years ago? Okay, like we all would have been sitting in Miami in one of our beach houses, riding a jet ski around and drinking mojitos. At the same time, with this being said, Tesla is a little bit on the aggressive standpoint. You see that I have so many alerts out right now because I kind of really want to see where it goes and really just track on how it behaves if it does make a sporadic move up, down, left, or right. Initially, it is sitting currently at a key Fibonacci level around that $863 level. Potentially, could it run to 1,000? Why the F not? Of course, Tesla could run to $1,000 if it wanted to. I think that would be potentially its last sprint and maybe run out of breath here and maybe not being able to go completely up the hill and maybe kind of get somewhat of a pullback. Again, with Tesla, it usually has these huge, enormous rocket ship jumps higher, maybe levels off a little bit, and then maybe pulls back a little bit. So very much so, it's very difficult to tell someone to buy into Tesla right now, even though unless they're going to hold the stock for 10 or 5+ years, it's going to be very difficult to buy this at this level as of right now. And being very mindful of that, especially with how Tesla does react. Because again, once there's any kind of sign of potential profit taking or some kind of reversal, that can come back down pretty fast to around the 7 or basically where the 8 EMA lies currently, around the 765 and then even down to 690. But that being said, we'll see what happens with the Tesla. This is going to be a very interesting one to watch this week without a doubt, and especially tomorrow because I want to see on how it reacts to the solid state drives that Nio is talking about that's coming out in 2022. Venture says, what do you think about GM? We'll jump from Tesla right into GM. This one, again, interesting play. Just in the fact of, again, old kind of car company, but they're trying to ignite the spark of innovation and just great stuff. But that being said, it is looking interesting here. It does have a squeeze set in place. The volumes on oscillator and also the RSIs being somewhat in hibernation mode. If it can stay above that $42 range, we potentially could get a bounce here and get at least above 45 and maybe test as high. I don't see any earnings on the horizon, but the trend is definitely trying to go higher because we do have the 5 and 8 in the short-term side crossing through the 21 EMA to potentially, again, push that move higher there. John Marshall says buy WIX. WIX, it's Wix. Interesting play. Interesting you say that. This is like the website building application thing, right? Looking at this one, the last coming weeks, basically, it just has been slightly downtrending here. I'm not the world's largest fan of drawing trend lines, but look at this one. That really kind of shows you where the lines are going, and really just kind of failing here, potentially looking for failure around if we do get a break above this triangle here, because we're also getting this kind of line going here, which again is somewhat not the most standard, but like a triangle pattern here, potentially looking for this very strong base, or basically around 250 basically. If this holds, we could potentially get a breakout above the 275 and get a pretty substantial move higher going here. But that being said, this is definitely going to be a risk to reward kind of a chart here, risking the upside and potentially getting out if it breaks below this support level here. Brian B., your thoughts on DDD? It had a 2-day run on news and beating earnings. It's a 3D printing company. Yeah, DDD, NNDM, those mother truckers have just been making a moolah and really just driving up these markets again. With this move higher, I'm a little bit afraid that this is very much not my wheelhouse as well. With such a move higher within the just the FOMO side of the house. Again, a lot of day traders and scalpers in this stock right now and just waiting and pouncing like predators. They're like jaguars in the jungle, and you and I are just those cool safari folks with the really cool hats, just kind of walking around with their water jugs and like, hey, this is a great stock. DD, hey, you got calls? You got calls, man? I got calls too, man. I made 400%, and then boom, a flipping jaguar comes out, pounces on, knocking your hat over, and eats you alive if you buy the stock. If that makes sense. I know that was completely stupid, but you understand what I'm saying, right? It's a little bit overextended. I'm a little fearful. Again, I know I had fantastic news. Everything's breaking out, but this is a little bit too emotional for my cup of tea. What broker is this? It's Thinkorswim, my friend. AIV. AIV, interesting one. Number one, this thing looks beat up as AF. Wow. This thing looks terrible, my friend. I don't know what happened here. It looks like I had a split of some kind. Wow. Yeah, I don't want to touch this one. Very much too much going on. There's too much bad stuff there. Do I think NIO will be the Tesla of the future? No, I think Tesla will be the future. NIO will have a place in it. A lot of these EVs will have a place, but I think Tesla's going to be like the Apple computer of the 80s and 90s. Thurman Arlington, thank you for becoming a basic live stream member. I really do appreciate it, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give everyone a little round. Oh, not everyone. Let's everyone give a round of applause to Mr. or Mrs. I don't know, Arlington. Thank you, my friend. Let's see here. I saw a couple things I wanted to talk about. I saw blah, blah, blah. Shoot, where'd it go? I just updated this. I just crashed here. 1 second. Sorry, guys. I saw Lemonade, LMD. I saw LMND. Yeah, Lemonade, again, being somewhat exhausted here as well. Again, being up another 5% on Friday. How high can it go? This is definitely something to be looking for. We do have a Fibonacci number around 181. That doesn't mean it has to hit this level, but this is definitely looking for something that we could kind of give us a marker of a potentially overhead resistance or pressure. That being said, short-term support is going to be coming around 130 and then 128, and then longer dated support around 110, even down all the way to $85 is going to be where the 50 SMA says as well. Very interesting chart as well. This thing has been completely gangbusters. It's not even signaling on the high levels of RSI or the volumes and oscillators. So not saying it can't go higher, but it's not like screaming overbought for folks that are potentially short sellers to be buying or trying to short this as well. Let's see here. Looks like things are updating here. INSG, is that a ticker? INSG. Okay. Let's see, INGCR. Very interesting chart. So these like large spikes up here, it looks like it's going into earnings runs potentially. Mine is this one here. That's a little strange. This one had a huge move higher. I'm not sure what this company does, but looking at the chart, it's holding somewhat the 21 EMA. The good point is the 5 and 8 moving averages has not crossed through the 21 EMA. So that is a good sign of some potential strength here. So it kind of gives the 1420 to 1450 some strength to hold here. But it does have some potential support at 1350. But kind of making this, hopefully it's not a dead cat bounce here for you, meaning that if it does pull up, it doesn't hit this, basically the higher 15s, the lower 16s, and kind of rolls back over. So that's where those parabolic SER dots kind of come in to help you potentially stop that. So if we do get a move higher and we get the move higher that breaks the parabolic SER dots, that we could see it kind of switch over and break past that $16 level to those all-time highs above 18. But those are a lot of things need to happen for this to really kind of continue going higher. But being very careful on this could potentially roll over if things don't go right as well. Oh, it's 5G. Okay. You said MR. This one stopped trading. Oh, Mr. Okay, you're saying Mr. Okay. Lisa Jesse says, thank you very much for answering my questions. Thank you very much. Lucky from San Antonio, Texas. Nice. I need to visit Texas. I hear a lot of great things. I hear a lot of people are moving there. Someone's saying ZOM. ZOM. That's not Zoom. What is that? Better not be a penny stock. It is. I knew it. I can't touch that with a 10-foot pole. That's moving too much, man. Huge catalyst in March. I know, man. I'm not saying I'm not gonna make anything said about this. I played the penny stocks back in my day. It's not my cup of tea. That being said, this is just a crazy choppy market, and I really do God bless you and hope you well on that trade there. Sorry. Brian TV says Tesla pullback or no. Tesla pullback is gonna, if it does happen, it's gonna happen fast. So like we just talked about, if Tesla does pull back, it's gonna be initially coming down to the 8 EMA, around the 763, even up to 775. And if that breaks, that could potentially going pretty substantially lower. So that's something I want to be very, my pen's not working, going there. What's ZOM's high potential here? What is it? Is it going to cure cancer? Okay, a lot of things are coming in here, guys. Thank you for joining. Let's see here. Oh, Alan's asking for AMC. Alan, I think you're gonna get what I think you already kind of know the answer for AMC, and it's gonna be why. Like, poor movie theaters. I think everyone enjoys going to movie theaters. Maybe people don't enjoy the expensive popcorn, but I think that being said, it's somewhat of a tradition here, especially in the United States, being able to go to the movie theater and really experiencing a really nice cinema. That being said, this thing has been so beaten down, but I'm not gonna lie, if I understand their financials pretty well, they're just trying anything in their power to really beat this. With that being said, I might take a shot at this, honestly, Alan, just to be a completely idiotic, contrarian bet on it. And I'm talking like super small size, like something super small. I want to be super tight stops on, or not, I mean, again, these options don't cost very much. Like, if this gets any kind of movement, they're going to print pretty high. Like, if I just buy one of these, okay, it's 20 bucks, whatever. Okay. But if that does print, but again, I'm not throwing in, not even 1% of the account on these kind of plays here. So be very mindful of that. I saw some things for NNDM, so going back to another 3D printing company. Of course, this is in Israel. Again, they are so they say, and so some other research papers are saying they are the leader within able to print on not 2 but 3 levels of circuit boards with adding 2 different kind of mixtures properly. So the silicon and then also the electrusive glue stuff to be able to make these high-grade circuit boards in a very small confined space. With that being said, they have raised quite a bit of money on stock offerings, and it has been very much a choppy ride when that happens. But as long as it stays above $8, I'm honestly somewhat okay holding this one. With that being said, the $8 range kind of comes in all at 3 different levels. We have the yellow line, which is the 21 EMA. We have the parabolic SAR dots, which is the purple dots, and we have a Fibonacci number at $8. So that's what I'm looking at to potentially kind of hold this trend here, and with some really longer term targets around $11 and even up to $16 if this trend can keep on going higher there. Papa D, what's up, my friend? Thank you for the $2. Will Zoom go up? Yeah, ticker symbol Zoom. So I think you're talking about ZM here. Will it go up? I don't know, my friend. I think this was very much, a lot of people put this in the same bucket of a pandemic work from home stock. But I think more and more we see things reopening, more and more folks getting back into doing quote unquote normal life. I think Zoom will still have its place. I think it's a great technology, but I think the evaluation has gotten a little bit too far ahead of himself. We are looking for some, again, you can kind of see on my alerts here. If it does break below the 328, and that is a pretty substantial level at the 200 EMA on the daily chart, that would be a potential a bounce play. But that being said, we are still trading below the 21 EMA, even below the 5 and 8. So the moving averages are still somewhat pointing to the ground here. Again, kind of pointing to the, again, 200 EMA here and looking for a potential bounce play here. If it doesn't, we can just cut right past that into some lower levels. With that being said, if we want to go higher, we need to start trading these moving averages sideways, build a base, and potentially try to get above the 20 on EMA. Which we tried here and we kind of really failed here. You kind of saw that movement here, and we kind of traded here, but we weren't able to stay above the 21 EMA. We just got a little bit of air and then we just sank back down like a sinking boat. Did the same thing here, got a little bit of air, and then now it's just continuously kind of grinding lower, kind of just waiting on participating or anticipating potential move higher, but the overall trend and the path of least resistance is still somewhat lower or sideways. And again, Papa D, thank you for the $2, my friend. Sofon, Alibaba or BABA. This thing, again, very much like Zoom. It's kind of like the very much kind of the same kind of chart pattern. We have not been able to get above the 21 EMA. Like, we had the bad news, whatever the news is, if it's no longer a favorite stock because the pandemic is over and the vaccine's out, or is it because the CEO is being tortured by the Chinese government or whatever, whatever is going on over there. He's missing, he's disappeared, he's out, he hasn't been seen by news media for quite some time, whatever the reason is. I hope he's okay. But with this trend looking lower, again, with the Ant IPO failing, then you have issues with them being antitrust probe within that as well. There's this continued to kind of tear it lower here. Initially looking for the 227 to 225 to potentially hold here and maybe seeing somewhat of a rebound. At the same thing what we just talked about with Zoom, with Papa D's stock here, we're really looking to kind of stop the bleeding here and really get above the 21 EMA here. So that would kind of put it directly above $244 at those prices there to potentially see any kind of kick or move higher at those levels to see the trend potentially change. With this being said, this could be a very fast moving stock, and this is definitely a very aggressive move if it does bounce and really makes a V-shaped recovery. Piton. Someone said Piton. Yes, I haven't heard about Piton in a while. So Piton, again, this is a little bit strange, right? Everyone think that this would go lower because gyms are opening back up. This is somewhat of a higher luxury product, and really a connected device where it's fairly expensive. With that being said, we did hit that 21 EMA pretty hard here and bounced off here. If we can't break above 160, that would be somewhat of a dead cat bounce, and we could be going lower, and we break below 150 down to 140, but with some key targets and some overhead resistance around 160 to 163, with some targets at 170 for all-time high breaks. This is definitely one to watch out for. I think the trade's somewhat already kind of in. You can play at smaller size potentially, maybe doing a short-term trade, holding it at if it does break below 150 and maybe trying to 170. But it's really not the world's greatest risk to reward for me going forth there. So being a little bit mindful of those potential moves within Piton. David S., thank you for the $5, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your thoughts on PEIX? Made a killing on FCell and Plug last week, so feeling a little jealous tonight. That I made it. Yeah, Plug made a fantastic move, that didn't it? FCell as well. Let's look at PEIX, Pacific Ethanol Company. What's the story with this one? I've never heard of this one. I don't know how I have fibs on this one, but looks like I wanted to buy into this. Did you bring this up before, David S? It sounds like something you did before, because if I would have not have done the fibs here unless you were brought it up. I think you might have brought this up on a live stream maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe. That's a hell of a move here. That being said, this is a very interesting play here. So let me just get rid of these fibs here. This is I'm going to write this one down just on my notes here next to buy AMC as a play. EPEIX. Does it have options? It does. It's got pretty interesting open interest on it. I like it. Very open interest. I like this. Is a very strange one. What's the story here? This is an interesting one. So this being said, I like this for whatever brought this substantially lower here. This is looking for maybe just kind of some trading sideways here. It has been in a squeeze since like the end of November. So this is a kind of my favorite kind of cup of tea here, and really much just kind of consolidating here, but it has not been able to move higher or break out here. So we're looking for some potential levels here. If it starts breaking above the 675 and even the 650 range, we definitely could see a very much kick higher here. To the downside, we're going to be kind of looking for 550. So this is very much like a sideways choppy market here. Yeah, they sold off their ethanol business and strictly sticking to high, making high and alcohol. Interesting. So you think there's the more of a play to go forth here? With this being said, I like it. I like the chart setup, to be quite honest. It might take a long time to play out. So this is definitely something that could move. But it could also take some time, because this has made again, maybe much the trade could be over. But again, this is a somewhat of a risk to reward here. We start breaking below the 550, even down below 5. We could see some downside to around 430. So the 430 range is kind of where the 200 EMA lies. So that's going to be your overall support at that range. But that being said, we have some key levels basically around $9 and then all the way up to the all-time high at 11 something at 1144. So interesting play, and interesting to see how this plays out. Papa D, thank you for another $2, my friend. Biden saying 30-day lockup, will Zoom go up? Potentially. If that happens, like, I think that wouldn't be the most well-advised situation to tell people to lock up again. I think it would be maybe better focused on getting vaccines and getting the folks that need the vaccines, especially the elderly over 75 or 65, whatever the terms are. I think that's just my honestly position on it. Zoom can go up for a lot of reasons. Zoom can go back up for if they have a fantastic quarter, but as of right now, that trend is somewhat kind of slightly printing lower, indicating lower prices or some chop. And like we talked about, that 21 EMA really coming into being its proving ground to see if it does break higher. And thank you again for the $2, Papa D. Aton says QS. So QS, this is a stock I don't like to put an emotional value on things, but this is the kind of stock that I kind of like here. We talked about it in our Discord, potentially going lower here. We'll see on how the overall market takes with NIO Day and Tesla coming out tomorrow. And again, this is the QuantumScape is the company that's really working on the solid state batteries that NIO is saying that they will potentially have in production by 2022. That being said, we'll see how that plays out. But long-term play, I like QS super long-term. I have been adding into the position around 50. Been choppy here. Really looking for potentially breaking down even more. If it does, I would like to add a little bit more. Looking for some support around 45, 46. If that really breaks, we're going to be looking at some levels around $40 or below, so the mid 30s potentially. DT, thank you for the 550, my friend. Thank you. That is so nice. And you got me a cup of coffee. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tommy Robinson said, hey, what's up? Okay, TOS. Yes. I thought of you when I looked at this chart the other morning, and I actually wrote it down on my piece of paper right here. And I couldn't remember who brought it to my attention. That was you, wasn't it? KTOS. Of course, this is one that is Kathy Wood's favorite as well. This is looking for downward movement. If it does, it's been holding that 21 EMA here as well, which is a great little sign. And we have some pretty substantial support, this fib number as well from its all-time high. Let me go here on the weekly chart right about here at $25 basically. But we could see a pullback to 25. The pullback even down to 22 potentially could happen if, again, the overall market does take us lower here. But the overall target is still $30 or higher here. INU. This is, again, interesting play here. This could be a potential breakout here. We did have a nice long squeeze. It did fire long here going into the end of the week, potentially trying to break above this previous high here, which was some overhead resistance before, basically around 36.50. If we get any kind of good news, I think this is going to be NIU. Correct me if I'm wrong, Arlington, that this stock is going to be at the JP Morgan Health Conference. So this potentially could go higher, right? If it does report some data, some new findings or whatever. But we can kind of see that 21 EMA kind of be some support around 30. Papa D says, I'm in at Zoom for 70K, down 10K, should I sell? So Papa, again, I'm not sure what your risk tolerances is. So if you had 70K in it and you're down 10, that's a pretty haircut of a move, to be quite honest. That being said, for my reference and my guidelines, what I would do if I had that position, it needs to stay basically above 340 to around the 327 for that to hold. Again, I'm not sure what price you got in. Guessing you probably bought in around the $400 range, maybe even the $395. And this little pullback really didn't shake you out yet, but you're really kind of holding, potentially waiting the bleeding to stop. But that being said, that 200 MA is going to be a pretty strong line in the sand here if we do get any kind of movement to the downside there. So that's going to be kind of what my reference points would be. Normally, if I do put a position on at that size, I really want to use a percentage basis of like, hey, if I'm down more than 5%, that's really hard to come back from. And unless it's a super long-term holding or you've been in it for quite some time, I just want to be very careful on how you allocate that cash or how you reposition on that position. CLF, I saw. CLF. Wow. Okay. This is, again, still continue to climb higher. I think we talked about this on the last live stream, with this really kicking off here and looking for some continuous movement higher. We are hitting the red bands here on the top level of RSI and the volumes on oscillator. That doesn't mean it's going to come crashing down or being completely overbought, but just kind of signaling potentially some warning signs. Maybe some scalpers or some short sellers could be coming in to kind of push it back down to the 16 to the lower mid $15 range. If we do get a little bit more of a pushback, we're going to be looking for some initial support around the 1450 range there. Kenny Pam is saying NVIDIA is forming a synchronized triangle pattern on the daily chart. Yeah, Nvidia, which again, it had a pretty large say on the NIO conference. If you watched it, it was kind of an interesting conference. There was a lot of music and a lot of um, smoke and mirrors, as they call it, in the beginning, in the sense of just music and videos and things like that. Which again, I wish they would just kind of jump into this stuff again. The real like it was a 3 hour thing, I believe, and it was only like 45 minutes of real content. Even that. With Nvidia, I love this stock and I love their products. I love their devices. But this thing has been a chop city. I think most everyone can agree that this has just been choppy, choppy, choppy. Initially looking, again, that chop to continue. I'm really just kind of waiting and sitting on my hands, lack of better words, looking for a move higher above 560 or a move lower below 510. And really looking to kind of play from either of those zones. I don't like to short, but if it does go short, I just kind of have to reevaluate and potentially look at some downward support. But with Nvidia, fantastic chip run company. They are a little bit of a standstill due to the fact of potentially trying to buy this third part or this other chip manufacturing within China. That's going to take a little bit of time, I believe. So if you have a little bit longer time horizon on this, this is definitely some kind of a play here. I'm not sure what the chart pattern that you're directly talking about, but this is definitely could be a nice risk to replay reward to the upside if it does get that nice little pop higher. Oh, it does scooters. Okay, so I think it's something else. Yeah, I remember I did something on it because I did the Kathy Wood video, and I remember that one kind of came up. Is NIO a good long-term run? I'm going to be a little bit skeptical on it. Again, this whole move right here was very much the FOMO and just the run up into the NIO day. Potentially, we could see it run up to $62 to $68 tomorrow. If that FOMO really continues, I can easily see $70. But that being said, to conceive that and not trying to put my mind into the mindset of like telling myself it's going to hit 70, I just have to wait to see really what the market and what folks are going to be willing to pay for or sell it at. With that being said, we do have some short-term support around $53 with some longer dated support around $50 to $48. Is it a long-term chart, a long-term investment? I'm going to be a little bit skeptical on that as well. I think if they really need to show continuous growth, they are showing, I think it was like what, 12,000 to 15,000 cars delivered in the last quarter. Maybe it was last year. I don't completely quote me on that one. But this is definitely a very early stage company. Again, it's in the EV space. It's in China, so it's going to be a little bit smaller segmented. They are talking about expansion as well, potentially going to Europe first and then the US. But I think Tesla's kind of got their foot in the door, of course, with Asia already, and they're building that gigafactory in Berlin, outside of Berlin. It's going to be a very difficult process unless you really understand and believe the technology of the rechargeable stations or the battery swaps is really going to be the next technology led higher. I don't know though. Let's see here. Someone's saying Bitcoin is going lower. Yikes. Yeah, it's down 12% as of right now. Interesting to see that. And initially, if Bitcoin's, again, this is not really much of a sell-off. Again, this is what happens when you have something that's super red and overbought. You usually come down initially first to the 34 or the 8 EMA here. So we're currently seeing that really play out here at that $34,000 to $35,000 range. That seems insane. I know this is just $20,000 just a couple weeks ago. But if this really breaks at that parabolic SAR level, we can see some substantial downside back down to below $30,000 to potentially even $28,000, $29,000. And I think that would be a very nice buying opportunity between that and the $25,000 level. So that's going to be potentially, and the way I like to play that is going to be the GBTC movement here. Again, this is definitely going to be coming down if If it continues to sell off here or stay at this level, this will definitely be trading around 40 and even down lower if the market continues to sell off. So Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust is the way I will play Bitcoin from that, basically using this ETF leverage account to look at getting into Bitcoin that way. Ethereum's down big too. Wax. Okay. We didn't talk about IDEX. With this one as well, very much in these huge spike ups and then spike downs. This didn't really clear above that $4 range on Friday, and now we potentially could see this go lower here. Initially support around 277, but some stronger support around 240. But if it really wants to come back lower, we're going to basically see it back at $2. That's all I can really say there. We got some Workhorse you're talking about. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Workhorse, this is again, I'm always a little bit scared with these kind of plays because everyone's just like, oh, they're gonna win that fantastic contract and they have some great technology. Not too familiar with their technology or what they're really bringing special to the table. To be quite honest with you, I just know that a lot of people have been pumping up the stock just because of that deal with the USPS, the Postal Service here in the United States. But we've seen multiple issues at the $27 to $28 level. You can kind of see where I have my alert at 30 here. I had some longer term alerts up here, which I'm going to get rid of right now. But with this pattern kind of playing out here, potentially if EVs do sell off tomorrow, this is definitely going to be going with it. And we could see some initial support around $22. I got some in my eye. TRXC. Yikes. Yeah, that's going to be something I can't touch. Like, this is a penny stock. If this wants to go higher, it's going to hold the 8 EMA here. It could come back down to 73 cents, but this is not really my kind of cup of tea to trade. I'm sorry, my friend. AAL, so American Airlines. The airline group has just been a fun one to be looking at here this past year or so. With this kind of potentially trying to go higher here, really again, we did have that fatal crash on a 737-500 series, which is, I believe, like a 24 to 26-year-old plane that crashed in Indonesia. So it's not a MAX plane, so that doesn't mean it's one of the newer BA planes, but this definitely could kind of ripple across the airline industry and maybe just affect it just a little bit. With that being said, we're going to be looking for some initial support to the downside, especially for AAL to be strictly looking at around 1473, sort of 1475. You kind of see some alerts out there, but I've been trading the airline industry using the ETF, which I believe most folks are talking about is JET, so that's ticker symbol JETS. And this has kind of been holding above the $21 range as well. A little bit better performing. Again, you're buying the whole group rather than just one outlying airline company. With that being said, kind of holding above $21, looking for 24. So this kind of be a nice little risk to reward. If it does break below 21.75, you can get out of it, but with looking at targets around 24 or above. I don't know if airline is death. Airlines have to exist. That's how we get basically from point A to point B in large distances. I think there's definitely going to be some consolidation in the industry, though. Zach's asking if NIO is a good buy. I'm not sure what you mean by a good buy. If you mean if it was it a good buy at $3? Yes, it was. Is it a good buy maybe coming out tomorrow? We'll have to see. It's going to be very difficult to judge that again after a very large event on Saturday. Could definitely drive it higher or lower. We don't know yet, right? I can't predict the future. We talked about QS, Tam. We talked about QS potentially staying above 45. If it doesn't stay above 45, we could potentially see it down lower, around the mid 30s to the higher 20s. But it's just kind of been beaten down. It's kind of been aggressively kind of selling off, and just kind of needs to level off a little bit before we can kind of get higher. SGBX, says Fran. SGBX. What in the world is this? Interesting. With that being said, that's gonna be a tough one, my friend. I don't know what this company does, but this is a very weird looking chart here. Yeah, I don't like this chart, my friend. It did a 1 to 20 split. That's never a good sign. Nah. Could it run? Sure. It's gonna have to run without me. But looking strictly at the chart, it's kind of leveling off here. It needs to stay above that $5 range, but it has some overhead pressure with those parabolic SAR dots. Now there's two up there, so around the 650. So depending on how it trades Monday, we really need to start seeing it level off here and stay above around the 550 range to potentially get that curling up pattern going. Let's look at APHA. Yes, so this is one I actually kind of like. This is, again, somewhat of an unknown. Looking at this one, potentially nice little curl up here. It does have earnings coming out on the 13th. So it's actually on, what's that, Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday of this week. Looking for this potentially, again, this has been a longer term play for me, so I'm holding the stock here as well, and really looking for a move above, excuse me, $9.72 up to $10. So the market move for this week is basically saying $1.40, or basically $1.50, and that would kind of put it back in that range of $10 or above. But to the downside, we have some initial support around $8 and then down to $7.75. Market crash? No, it's gonna be hard to tell if a market's gonna crash. Like, we're not down 3 or 4% in a day. Are you an idiot savant? I don't know what that means, Rob, but God bless you, my friend. Let's see. Okay, a lot of people are pinging a lot of things here. Sorry, guys. 1 second here. Thoughts on SPWR? Okay, nice little move here. SunPower, of course. I think this is one of the larger solar stocks, if I'm correct. This has been a very nice move. Of course, it's been very positive due to the fact of the Democrats winning, trying to bring larger clean energy and the overall, really just the larger movement within the solar panel industry. Looking at this pattern here, we're having some issues around $30, really kind of staying above it with any kind of momentum. We are getting a pretty large influx of volume here in the last couple of days here. Well, that's a nice little sign to potentially kind of kick it higher here. Initially looking to kind of have this hold this base here, potentially coming down to 26 in the stronger support. So 26 to like the 25 range could be a nice potential buy zone, but really kind of keep an eye. If it starts breaking below 28 in the short term that could potentially lead to that bleed or that drip lower to that range that we just talked about around the 21 EMA. CCL for long run, Nick Stoner. CCL, that's Carnival Cruise Lines. Of course, I've actually never been on a cruise. I hear people love them or they hate them, so I'm not quite sure. But looking at the strictly chart here, it's kind of similar like to the airline industry, right? It had the somewhat move higher. Now it's kind of consolidating around the 21 and the 34 EMA here. Really looking for CCL to stay above 20. It does have earnings this week, right? Yeah, the 11th. Yeah, the 11th, that's tomorrow. What is it? Is it before the market or after the market? What is the market? Earnings. Oh, before the market. So we'll know come tomorrow morning by probably like 7, 8 a.m. on how the market's going to take this. Is going to again see how this will potentially affect the overall other travel industry stocks and seeing if there are more bookings going out. If we do get a sell-off, what's the market move for this week? Is basically $2. So $2 move could potentially put it back down to 1850. We do have some support around the 50 SMA here around 1920. So 1920 to around like the 1850 range would be some interesting initial support to go there. But then to the upside would be a potential break above 22. Yeah, IDEX is definitely could consolidate here. It has some strong support at 250, but $2 is going to be a pretty large move down without a doubt. T-Doc, yeah, that's an interesting one. Play too. That's kind of been resurging a little bit again, due to the healthcare stuff and things moving higher. This was a pretty substantial move here. Initially looking for that 230 to 233 level to be some overhead resistance here, which we've seen here multiple times kind of fail here once, twice, three, now potentially 4 times around this 230 range, not being able to get at or above it at any kind of consistency with volume and range or with strength. And you can kind of see that here, sadly, with the volumes on Oscillator kind of coming down here. As long as it stays above 0 and potentially bounces off the yellow line and goes higher, we could potentially see some potential pullback to 216 and then maybe get a kick higher, or we hit 216 and kind of trade lower. There's going to be a million things that can happen here, but insinuating the potential alternatives or playing and having a plan for it, if it does break above that 230 range, it really needs the next overhead pressure, could be potentially coming in around 253. But at the same time, if it does break above 230, that 230 lines potentially could come down as very strong support. Howard, do you mind looking at Royal? Is that Royal Caribbean? I'm not sure what the ticker symbol for Royal is. Let me look it up. If that's the Royal you're talking about, or you're talking about Royal Dutch company. It's RCL, right? Yeah, this is almost, I won't say the exact same kind of pattern, but it had that move higher. Now it's kind of consolidating around the 21 to 34 EMA. It's definitely going to move depending on how CCL reports Monday morning. So stay tuned. This is definitely going to reflect on that move there. Doggy coin, no. BNGO, yes, that was definitely one that has been a pretty large move higher. Of course, very much speculating on this one as well. By speculation, it means like this is a very aggressive potential move here. with this move higher here, potentially looking for some initial support around $4. But if it stays above 4 to 434, that trend is still somewhat intact, can potentially just trading sideways here, and then looking for some consolidation. If it starts breaking below that and we start getting the bleed lower with the 5 and 8 moving averages, we're going to be looking for 350 to 275 there. But 546 is a very key Fibonacci level, and of course that all-time high as well is going to be a potential level higher there as well. So be careful with that one. Someone says TSM. I love my TSM. This is a beautiful move coming Friday, but then really just giving it a lot of it back again. Doesn't really do it justice here. Hitting that crazy lumbar on 225 and then going from 225 down to nearly 216 and then kind of coming back a little bit here. Still a pretty large sell-off here. Again, who knows, it could just be profit taking. It could be the massive run into earnings that we're having currently. But initially looking for some short support around 116 to 115, and then looking for that potential consolidation going into earnings. Save stock. So you're looking at Spirit Airlines. Of course, this is one that I hear quite a bit on folks really working on save stock again. Very much just like the cruise lines and just the Jets ETF again, looking a little bit, not say better, a little bit more with the moving averages slightly closer spaghetti together. Looking for potentially in the short term around $23.80 to $24 to hold. If we do get a kick higher, we're going to be looking for $25 to $26 for some initial targets. But with some fib numbers, we want to see it at $27 to $28 higher on that breakout. Again, this is going to be really heavily tied to reopening the economy, more folks being willing to travel, and of course with the rollout of the vaccine and things like that. Rob says January 20th, my B day. Nice. The end is near. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Okay, the chat's moving really fast. I do apologize. John says, Battelle, dude, take it easy. There are 365 people here versus one kid. What stock? What does he want to look at? I don't choose. The chat moves so fast, folks. Okay, like I'm not really trying to nitpick on folks do or do not want. I have no idea who you are. Of course, I want to show somewhat favoritism to folks that are donating. So I do apologize if I did skip you. You're more welcome to, once this video is live, to comment on it, and I will get back to it as quick as possible. So again, thank you for everyone's support. Amazon. I saw a lot of Amazon going through. Amazon, very interesting chart as well, kind of like an NNDM. It's just been, or not NVIDIA. It's just kind of been trading sideways and doing really not next to anything here. And looking for this to kind of just trade sideways here. Long as it stays above 3,000, that trend is just going to be just kind of chop, chop, chop. So long as want it to stay above 3,000 and really having a little bit of issues trying to get above the 3,336 range, which we talked about multiple times before. You can see we failed here and we failed here, and now we're coming down to that support level around that 3,079 for those levels there as well. Really looking for this to potentially just trade choppy in this until we get a move higher above that 3,300 or down lower below 3,000 there. A lot of folks are saying NIO to the moon. I really do hope everyone the best of luck for NIO. I really do. Do, 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 do. John says, oh yeah, Sky Media says, X Gnog. Yeah, Gnog is the golden nugget, right? Of online. Yeah. This again been somewhat choppy here. Really kind of sold off here a little bit once it kind of went from SPAC into the real stock name. We are seeing the 5 and 8 moving averages kind of selling off here a little bit. Crossing through the 21 EMA and looking for some initial support around 20. As long as it can stay above 20, that would be somewhat fine and dandy. But we need to start seeing the 5 and 8 moving averages to stop selling off so aggressively at those movements there. John says, check out ICLN, Clean Energy ETF that has been crazy positive reactions to the elections, blue wave, and relative political views. ICLN. Wow. Yeah, this is one, I've seen this one. This was well up like 300% last year. This is getting a little bit out of hand here with these large gap ups. It is very much overbought here. And this, again, we have to be kind of patient here, sit on our hands. Potentially, we'll look for some short-term support around $30 and even down to 28. That's all I can say on that one. This has been a very intense kind of movement there. Kevin, thank you for the 22. I appreciate it. Can we take a look at ADMP? I really do hope that's not a penny stock. Oh, my friend. Okay, I want to do my best. Usually the penny stocks are not my best cup of tea, but some penny stocks do a pretty good job on following Fibonacci numbers. And this one looks like it kind of does, to be quite honest with you. We are seeing it potentially some overhead resistance around the $1 range, which you kind of see failed here and kind of was a support and then breakout here. With that being said, we had a huge miss here after earnings, which is a little bit strange here. And now it's kind of making a pretty strong recovery here. Initially looking for some resistance at 74 cents or 75 cents. Looking for this, potentially looking for somewhat a movement here to look at some resistance here, which we've seen kind of chop here, and that's where it actually broke down. So that 74 cents to 75 cents is a very key level, honestly, Kevin, to potentially see if it does break higher, because it also falls in exactly at that 200 EMA here as well. And looking for this movement. It did have a squeeze, so it could potentially get that movement above that 74, 75 cents into the 89 cents, which would be somewhat of its next level higher there. But if that doesn't hold above 74, 75, we could see it back down to 60 and even 56 cents there as well, my friend. And thank you again for the 22. John, I definitely agree. PayPal is looking very sexy. Let's see here. Okay, chat's moving really fast. BFT, please. Interesting. Is this a SPAC? Looks like it, yeah. Again, these SPACs, very much just news driven, to be quite honest. So you're really looking for seeing what that could potentially be the driver here. Initially looking for some support around the 21 EMA, around 1430 to 1450. If it starts breaking below that with the 5 and 8 crossing through, we can definitely see some lower levels below $13-ish. I saw me some Chipotle. Let's see. CMG. Everyone knows I love my Chipotle. Interesting chart. I actually like this. This looks really sexy. This is definitely some guac here, if you know what I mean. Really interesting pattern here where he's seeing the 5 and 8 not aggressively cross through, kind of bouncing off here and definitely coming up here to the $1,400 range. We do have earnings on the horizon, so towards the beginning of February. Not too soon, but it's not too far away, if you know what I mean. So we potentially could get some interesting plays going into here. Interesting one I want to look at and really point out is the weekly chart. The weekly chart is looking fairly aggressive here, and if we get any kind of positive news, we're going to be definitely looking for some longer term targets around 1,500 for Chipotle. Can we please take a look at ALT? I can't look at ALT, man. That's okay. The daily chart. Okay, went from $35 to $14. Wow, what in the world? Very much a interesting play here as well. Looks like a lot of momentum here. You kind of got that crazy FOMO mentality kicking in here, and now traded sideways. Kind of selling off here and just kind of really kind of creating a base here. Really looking and waiting for this to potentially just kind of break out here. By breaking out here, it needs a substantial amount of volume. You saw a little bit of volume here and a little bit of volume here, but with no really kind of movement. So this is going to be a very tough one to kind of really look at there. Alan, thank you for the $5, my friend. Wow, 350 people watching. Happy I got those leaps on Sunday live stream. Thank you, Alan. I really do appreciate it. And you've been around for a long, long time and always supporting me. And I really do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. I really do mean that. I don't want to make anyone cry, but I appreciate it. Thank you. You unclipped coupons for $10? Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are so generous. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I love the name. Unclipped coupons. That's a great play on words there. QS, we talked about QS multiple times. We're looking for QS to kind of stop bleeding here on that pattern of movement lower here and looking for a somewhat of support, the 53 to $45 range. Thinking on Carnita, thinking of investing. What is don't know too much of that cryptocurrency. That's some kind of blockchain technology that is something new. Again, I'm not too heavy on cryptos. I was pretty heavy on cryptos back in 2017. I'm not too familiar with that, honestly, unclipped coupons. I need to do more research on that one, without a doubt. Let's see here. I'm seeing a lot of folks talking about yeah, we talked about BA a little bit. Oh, PLTR. Someone talked about PLTR. We can talk about PLTR real fast. PLTR. Looking at this one, this thing has been somewhat fine and dandy in the sense of really holding that 21 to 34 EMA. We talked about it staying above the 34 EMA multiple times and seeing it kind of hold above the $24 range. It has kind of come back. If we do get the 5 and 8 kind of punching through here, we could see some levels back up to 28, but that has been a very significant line of overhead resistance. People want to ask about BA. Of course, there's a plane missing. Again, you have to understand that plane that crashed or went down or whatever the problem was not a MAX. It was the 737-500, which is like a 24 or 25-year-old plane. So from last night, I haven't heard anything new on what the potential cause of the issue was on that. With that being said, for BA, We're going to be looking for some initial support around 200. Of course, with these crashes and things like that, normally it was tied to the max. I don't know how this is going to be affected. On the tree here, on the Fibonacci tree, we're going to be looking for some support around 200 to 195 if we do get a substantial pullback going there. Alex, thank you for $5, my friend. Thoughts on SRPT? We have a few calls in this positive for a long bought after the dip with ARK buying 875Ks on Friday. Yeah, this is definitely one that this is the one that got a huge crush just the other day. Oh, I missed that. What was it? Sorry, SRPT. Yep. With this. My honestly opinion on this is going to be very difficult because, again, I don't have the research that ARK has or that what you might have, Alex. With that being said, we are going to be looking at the previous low. So the previous low way back when everyone thought the world's going to end and zombies are going to take over was $78. So emotionally speaking, it should potentially hold that. Theoretically, unless the news was so bad and just so terrible on the whatever came out. Again, I'm not fully in the stock. I'm not just I don't know what the particular therapeutics they are in. But that being said, this is a pretty large drop, dropping 50% in one day. Unless again, ARK really does their research, and they're pretty impressive. What they do. Again, I think what they do on a lot of times is they buy and hold. So you have to be very well, maybe potentially waiting for that. Really looking at this at a weekly chart, you can really see the very, very aggressive moves that we saw within that close. And again, most therapeutical and pharmaceutical stocks do have these crazy large corrections. That being said, this could be a potential like, hey, maybe we misrepresented the data, things like that. You can kind of see here on the weekly chart, we have hit that 200 EMA multiple times. We've really cut through that. And closing out the Friday like that, that's really not the most prettiest pattern. But normally, these weekly or these pharmaceutical stocks are very difficult to track in that sense. But this is definitely something that could rebound. Honestly, my cup of tea is I would want to wait maybe 2 or 3 days to kind of maybe let the dust settle before I would purchase anything. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. A lot of folks in chat again. If you learned something, please hit that thumbs up. If you didn't, hit that thumbs down as well. And the system that I'm using right here is actually Thinkorswim. This is my Tastyworks account. Again, this is what I use really for trading there as well. So. And what I'm really looking at those options and stocks as well. I think Tastyworks has, they're really looking to get into cryptos, hopefully in February, which I think is really going to drive a lot more users to the product. Let's see here. Okay, chat's moving really fast here now. Let's see here. I'm seeing NVIS. MVIS, of course, I've seen this one before. Again, this one, pretty basic looking chart right now. We had a huge run higher on FOMO, potentially just momentum. And now we're kind of coming back down, hitting that 21 EMA here, potentially looking for a bounce. If we do get a bounce and stay above the $6.50 to $7, that kind of takes the dead cat bounce off the table. But we're somewhat in the early stages of this bounce. Really looking for this to potentially kind of hold here, but with some stronger support around the 21 EMA here. What's up, Sue? And thank you for always the wonderful comments. I appreciate that. Yeah, that Ken's team. I need to make a name for everyone that comes out and watches the stream. I need to kind of get that working, get my brain cells working, and seeing on what I should call all the people that come out and watch the live stream, which is again beyond grateful. There's 300 plus of you guys and gals right now, so yeah. AAPL, of course, Apple. I love Apple actually long term as well. With that being said, we're holding that 21 EMA. It did come down to the 34 EMA. As of right now, we have the Russell down almost 1%. We have NASDAQ down ever so slightly, nearly 0.5%, and same with the S&P 500. The VIX hasn't spiked up too much more. It's been holding around 350 to 360, or 0.360, sorry, $0.360, that 3.62%, or around 3.5%. With that being said, with Apple, I think this Apple has got a lot going for them. They're not just the AirPods and iPads folks anymore, with their potentially working with car companies. Yeah. Looking for that initial support around 130 with those targets, longer dated targets above 166. That's going to be really my trend charts here. Of course, this one has seen a lot of selling off due to FOMO. Again, had that huge sell-off from the 4-to-1 split. Even the earnings wasn't the two most juiciest as well. We do have earnings as well coming out towards the end of the month, so be super mindful of that as well. Jay, we did TRXC. There wasn't really too much I can add to it just because of the amount of volatility in that stock. Jason, thank you very much. My favorite dyslexic gentleman. ASTC. ASTC. Yeah, this is going to be crazy FOMO here as well, with these like just doing next to nothing, chopping higher, doing next to nothing, and then chopping higher. Nothing really too much to add there. Sean, I don't teach anything, honestly. I just do live streams and I post videos. I haven't even thought about doing a course. I don't even know where to start, to be quite honest, if I did to create a course and what really people want. I was thinking about maybe doing like a free webinar every week and just maybe having some kind of subject matter on that to kind of help folks out. I don't think I'm good enough to charge people for what I'm talking about. Javier Ramirez. Oh, you got quite a few stocks. Okay, well, I'm gonna honor it. You got $4. It looks like a lot of people have locked, but IDNX again. This again a very spiky, choppy looking chart here as well. We are seeing that potentially, if it does want to go higher, it needs to stay above that $2.39 to $2 range. That $2 range is super strong here as well, but it has been having a little bit of issues around 3. And then hopefully these are not all penny stocks here. This is very much a penny stock as well. Again, it's Global Star, whatever they do. Sounds very generic. Sounds actually a little bit scammy, but this is definitely looking like one very much FOMO here, and not really too much to add on that one. I apologize. On XNAT, this one looks like a little bit more interesting, not a penny stock directly, but a very choppy movement, very aggressive volume coming in here. And this is not really my favorite kind of candle because, again, you're really looking at this super aggressive moves higher here and then it just sells off because, again, it just has weak hands, and this really just screams day trading opportunities here. XPEV, of course, this one could be a potential mover here due to the fact of how NIO Day is perceived and being a larger movement within the Chinese EV stocks here. This one is looking a little bit more interesting than the previous penny stocks that we're looking at. So looking at the potentially the 5 and 8 crossing through the 21 EMA, but we've seen some issues above 50. We do have some substantial support around $43 to $44 there. But if it does want to go lower, we're going to be looking for some prices around $40 there. HYLN. Of course, Haleon Holdings, this thing has been, sadly enough, just been really beaten down. I think somewhat on the stipulant, really just bad negative press from Nikola, and it's just been having really issues trying to get back up above here. We have tried to get above the 20 EMA multiple times and has really failed here, and those parabolic SAR dots. If we do get any kind of movement higher, we do have a squeeze building up and volumes on oscillators looking to try to print higher here. We could potentially see this back above $20, which really kind of would potentially put it back into play here. PTE, very much, yeah, these are very much just like large volume days on one day. I'm very skeptical of those. Those are not really my wheelhouse of things. But this is definitely something to be very careful about. Again, which is just one large day up as well. Wow. Okay, this is definitely some kind of news here. Something being acquired here. Again, nice move if you've been in it, because there's no way of unless you had insider knowledge to buy this at this range, or you had some information about the fund. That's just something I can't. There's nothing I can really add to that chart. And OCC, same thing, very choppy. The more patterns I like to see. It looks like someone just printed asking for target. This is the chart that I more or less like. Again, it's a nice trending chart, holding the 21 to 34, even the 50-day at points, but with target looking to really print higher here, potentially to test 200. We are getting a little bit overbought here. We've seen this pattern before on its earnings here, potentially looking to kind of trade sideways, potentially even coming back down to 184. Jay, we talked about this one multiple times. That's TRXC. As I said, I think to multiple people already, there wasn't too much I can add to this chart because, again, it's just very much high volume on something potentially news breaking and just completely kind of dig higher here. This is definitely something that I really don't dive into very much, Jay. And this is too much FOMO behind it, and it's very much a penny stock, so it can be, in my wheelhouse, a little bit too heavily manipulated. Let's do a couple more before we get out of here. Someone's asking for JAGX. JAGX, looks like I saw that quite a bit. JAGX Healthcare, wow. This was a 19 cents penny stock before. This is fantastic. Like, if you're in this, God bless you. I hope you the best. And looking for this movement higher. This is completely insane moves. And if you're in it, you're fantastic. Like, this is just a really large breakout, and there's not really much I can add to it, to be quite honest. X0331X, thank you for the $4 or $5. Can you explain the Greeks for a new guy really quick? Also, dyslexic 1 in 3 million R. Really? It's 1 in 3? I thought it was higher. I thought it was like 1 in 10. Anyways, that just tells you what that. So, speaking of the Greeks, so you're talking about an option. So let's just look at Alibaba. Let's just look at that one. So looking at Alibaba, looking for a potential move in the chart. So if we have Alibaba here, and if you're saying, hey, Ken, I want to buy some options, and I think it's going to go to 250 by the end of this week. So I can tell you if that's a possibility. So we're looking here, again, I'm using Tastyworks. This is what the trading platform that I use, and it really breaks it down pretty easily. So I open up the trading platform, or the options for that week. So they're saying here on the very top right, they're saying plus or minus move of nearly $10. So the current price is around, I don't know, it closed at 236. Let's just call it 236, 237. So $10 higher would potentially put it at around 247, correct? So on the options tree, you really see that movement here. So if I wanted to buy which I don't recommend, I don't recommend weekly options. Let's go at maybe at a farther pace, maybe like February. And let's say I wanted to buy the 250 call, okay? So this kind of really breaks it down very well. The probability of profit is 28%, okay? So you have a 28% probability by the end of expiration of this call being in the money. So the in the money meaning it is basically above the cost of the stock. Then you have the delta, so it's 38.15. So what that means is basically saying let's say if Alibaba moves $1, this is going to be basically for every $1 move in the stock, this option is going to move $38.15. The thing that really throws a lot of people off, these number changes drastically depending on what the implied volatility and the IV rank is within the stock. And as well, the one thing that you should know the most about options is Theta. So the most basic things, being a new beginner, a new guy, really quick, is looking between the delta and the Theta. Theta is basically if Alibaba does nothing and just trades continuously at $235, $236 every single day into the expiration of 40 days out into February 19th, you will lose $15 on this option. Of course, this will ramp up tremendously, as you can see here on this graph, if the options gets closer and closer. So that Theta will really increase heavily. So for example, let's go ahead and look at the table here. Let's get rid of the $50 one. Let's say if I bought this Friday's expiration for $250, you see that the Theta is at $25 again, and the option only costs $1.50. The reason why the option is so cheap is because the probability of it being in the money is so low. The probability is basically less than like 20%. And a kind of a good way, a rule of thumb to potentially see on how an option's probability would be to be in the money is looking at the delta. That's just a really quick way and kind of a trick to kind of look at that, and really looking at those particular Greeks there. So hopefully that was informative for you, my friend. Again, greatly thank you for the $5. You didn't have to do that, and hopefully that I helped you understand that just slightly better. Chris, the 15 delta or minus 15 theta is kind of expensive. The only reason is because it's not crazy, just because Alibaba has earnings on the beginning of February. So that's something that you want to be mindful about there as well, and highlight that, because again, you see that the IV could potentially print higher here going into that earnings. Again, Alibaba has been very much beaten up as well, so they kind of have somewhat of a negative aspect swing to it. You need to have a Lambo and to teach the market on YouTube. Alan, I don't think I'll ever own a Lambo, even if I had the money. That's just not my cup of tea. I'm not a car guy. But thank you for the $2. I'll get a cup of coffee with that. You know what? I'll get a donut, Alan. I know you like those old fashioned donuts. I'm gonna probably get like a Boston cream filling donut. That's my cup of tea. They don't make those really good those donuts with like a good like a raspberry jelly in it. Those sounds really good right now, actually. Do I think Alibaba's going to recover? I would like for it to recover, honestly. Will it? I don't know, but Alibaba needs to stay above $225 initially to see those move forth here. David S saying DLTH, please, and thank you. DLTH, this is Duluth, isn't it? Ah, Was it you, David, and Alan that was in the stock? I knew you guys were. I think you guys are. This one actually, this is looking pretty sexy here, David. This is looking for another move higher potentially for DLTH. Because again, we have that squeeze setting up here. I kind of like that. We have the volume zone oscillator and the RSI pretty much at a steady level. If we do get any kind of movement here into the 5 and 8 crossing through here, we can really see that higher to that potentially breaking above 1250 to 1337 up there. So this is definitely something that could easily get to that level as well. David saying, LOL, Bitcoin crash just got me at 34K, LOL, 35K worth. Bitcoin. Yeah, we talked about Bitcoin towards the beginning of the hour here. We talked about it potentially holding around that $3,400 level. But this is definitely something that could bounce back harder because, again, those Bitcoin bros love those Fibonacci numbers. It has to be a good jelly. It can't be that fake stuff, honestly. That fake jelly is the worst. Oh, you're still in it too, Alan? Nice. What is your position on it, if you don't mind me asking, David S? Interesting. Anything like I'm less scared of Alibaba getting delisted because of Trump's being out of office, honestly. Well, it's honestly it's not funny that things crashing, but if anyone knows anything about like crashes or bubbles, just look at the tulip bubble centuries ago in Europe and just read about that, and then it's kind of like holy moly, like that was the Bitcoin back in the day was basically tulips. So fake jelly reminds me of Nicola. Oh God. Oh, that's hilarious. Raymond NG says, "What do you think about Tesla will hit 1K? Thanks." Again, Tesla is just such a beast in the market right now. It can really do much of anything it really wants. The only caveat that I have right now is that it has run up pretty substantially here. That doesn't mean it needs to come crashing down or whatever reason. That just means of like maybe to pump the brakes here. We do have some strong Fibonacci numbers around the $1,000 range, but with these very aggressive moves that we're seeing here, even on the weekly chart, we are hitting that overbought symbol or the overbought on the RSI, and the Chaikin money flows at a pretty high level as well, which is again the Chaikin money flow is going to be higher because again a lot of the indexes have to buy in larger funds, but with the volume zone oscillator and the RSI on the daily chart at a very high level too, and really looking at the potential moves that NIO Day could bring into the stock, we could be seeing a huge catalyst to that $1,000 range without a doubt. At this point, it's literally just pure speculation. I know that it's a fantastic company. I think most people enjoy Elon's presence and like to listen to him, but this definitely it's kind of going out of orbit here, and gravity could potentially try to bring it back into Earth. Keyword try, but if this momentum continues, that $1,000 range is somewhat in price, and being very careful about it. A lot of people are asking for Zoom next, looking for you guys. We talked about this one as well multiple times. We talked about this one being a penny stock and not really too much to add to it. This is definitely something that could come back down to basically 35 cents and even down to 25 cents. And that trend will still be somewhat intact. Short-term trend will be on that 36 cents and the longer-term trend around the 28 to 25. By longer term, I mean, again, it's a penny stock, so we're talking about a couple hours to a day maybe. But this very much is very going to be jumping on a lot of day traders and short sellers, scalpers, charts coming in this week as well. So you're asking for my Nio market predictions going out, looking at that particular movement here. So let's do this. So looking at Nio potential market predictions going out this week, we're going to highlight potentially what we could see. Again, depending on how Nio is perceived going out on Monday, really looking at prices, how people reacted to Nio Day. Do they believe what they're been told? Do they look at the facts? Do they look at it being the newer change within the Chinese electronic EV market? Looking at strictly on price here and using the options tree to kind of give us some guidance. So within Thinkorswim, they're saying a move about $8 or $9. And then within Tastyworks, they are saying a potential move around $8.36. Let's call it basically an $8.50 to a $9 move into next week. So $9 move would potentially put it up again, to around that $68 range. That $68 range is that key level, which we talked about multiple times before, being a key Fibonacci level. So $68 to $70 could be very much happening coming into next week. That being said, that also can reflect if Nio Day isn't perceived and they think that there is no special sauce there with Nio, and for some reason some analyst goes out and just give it some negative price targets, we're going to be basically seeing it on the lower end to potentially the $50 range, which is again a very key significant support to the downside. With that being said, that's a very large range within a short period of time for the price of the stock we're currently looking at. Guess what? The stock can do nothing and it can just hold that $60 range into something else for whatever reason. It doesn't need to move $9 up or down. It could move substantially higher or lower. These are just some guidelines to look at, potentially looking at the expectations from the market makers. Again, it's not set in stone. It's not going to be potentially what happens. You really have to have a full picture of what I like to look at where the fibs are, where support resistance, and then just react to that and what the stock gives you. So hopefully that was helpful on that account, my friend. Rondell, thank you for the $2, my friend. And you're asking about SQ, another fantastic stock. SQ, this has been a very beautiful looking chart as well. Again, we bought some of this at that 34 EMA pullback, which I kind of really like. I like that pullback between the 21 to 34 EMA on these very aggressive momentum stocks that we've seen really ramp up over the last coming months. Looking for a potential break higher here. We did break out and close at all-time highs at 246. A little bit of a pulling back again, potentially profit taking or whatever. But with this one, we're really looking for 250 or above and really looking for the $280 price target that we have on it. With that being said, being very mindful if it does stall out and not being able to break out of this kind of a cup here, we could potentially build a handle here holding around that 240-ish range, maybe waiting for the moving average to kind of catch up a little bit for another kick higher. So something similar like we saw back in the beginning of November. We had that move higher, kind of came back down to the 34 EMA, slowly made that cup higher, tested all-time highs, traded sideways a little bit, but then had that nice, beautiful grind higher from that point on. So hopefully that was helpful for you there, my friend. MARA. This is, of course, going to be, I think it's tied to Bitcoin, right? So this is definitely something that could be very cautious when you come out tomorrow. Of course, if Bitcoin continues to be below 10%, we'll definitely see some prices around that, potentially $19 to $17. I know it's going to be very at a very large range looking at this potentially, because again, this market has been pretty insane around these two, especially the Bitcoin blockchain technology stuff. So being very mindful at those two levels. Again, some stronger support coming around $12, but this is a pretty insane amount of move higher. So, but yeah, be careful on that one. Ted Date says NIO is going to tank. Yeah, we'll put some money behind it. I don't have any money in NIO, so I'm allowed to. I'm not going to be wanting to go in either direction as well. Marco D, you don't have to be completely spamming PLTR. We talked about PLTR. We're looking for basically PLTR to stay above $24, but it has a lot of issues above potentially hitting that wall at 28. GBTC, Arlington, yeah. So this is basically going to be coming into, again, it's a Bitcoin ETF, so basically kind of trades like it. So if Bitcoin's going to be selling 12 to whatever percentage off, it could be potentially coming down to $40 tomorrow, and potentially hold that as of right now. That's basically what it should mimic that. GHVI, yes. So this is one that was just got announced on an acquisition here. With that being said, we did hit that 21 EMA and bounced off it pretty hard here, looking for some targets to potentially hit around that 1350 or above there. But really looking for some, again, you really see it on my alerts here. I own this one. If it breaks below 12, I have to reconsider some stuff here. 1350 is really my target to the upside. Arlington, I don't know if you saw, we just did Grayscale BTC. We talked about potentially if Bitcoin continues to sell off around 10%, we could see that basically holding around $40. We did take a look at Lemonade. Lemonade is at a very strange level, honestly. It's not like crazy overbought yet, which is weird on the RSI level. And the volumes on Oscillator both kind of signaling maybe not overbought yet. So we do have a key Fibonacci level at 180 though. I can't be able to trade this again. This could be a nice day trade, but I can't honestly touch it with a 10-foot pole. But we do have some short-term support around 140 down to 135 on the short-term side though. Randall says, hearts. This is easily become my favorite channel. I appreciate that, man. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Carlos, we did ZOM, we just did Lemonade, and we did PTE. PTE and ZOM are very much heavy driven penny momentum stocks, and they're not really in my wheelhouse. That's something I don't touch those with a 10-foot pole. He must not like FDX. I do like FedEx. It just has not been the world's greatest stock. I don't go over people just because I don't like the stock. I talk about those penny stocks. Just want to look at that. Looking at FDX, this is a very aggressive move down again. look at that, the 5 and 8 in the 21 EMA, the 34 EMA. You start seeing the 50 SMA starting to curl over here. We're looking at some initial splash damage here around 237 to 235 to potentially be some downward support here. But again, I'm not going to be buying the first day it hits this level. It really needs to build a base here because, again, we've seen a little bit of selling off here before. Again, even this move here, again, that was due to the pandemic, but made somewhat of a V-shaped recovery. This move here came down to the 34 EMA, bounce higher. This thing has just been super more in the sense of aggressive and on its pullback and really looking for... I really don't want to be catching a falling knife here on FedEx, honestly. I can't short Tesla. That's against my that's set in stone for me. I can't do that. Looks like someone wants, what's Cron? That sounds familiar. Yeah, this is cannabis, right? Um, Very interesting chart here. Very choppy as well. It looks like it finally got above the 200 EMA here on the daily side here and looking down for some very choppy movements again, like very V-shaped moves here. Initially looking for some resistance around 9 to 950, not getting really much further above that. But we could be kind of creating a base here at that $9 range to potentially see that breakout to go higher. Arlington, yeah, we just did GBC, GBTC. So again, that's the grayscale Bitcoin. Initially, if it, again, the Bitcoin as of right now is down 10%. So that would indicate that this could be down all the way down to $40 potentially tomorrow. But again, gonna have to wait and see on how Bitcoin potentially could recover in the morning or in the later part of this evenings. Do I think the Facebooks or the social media stocks will tank tomorrow because of the ban of Donald Trump? I don't know. As of right now, Twitter has been having issues to kind of stay above that $52 range. It looks like it was kind of selling off into the end of the day here, but it made somewhat of a recovery. Initially looking for some support around the $51 range, and then showing some overall resistance around that $52 to $53 level. But with overall resistance around 55 to 56. If we do get a sell-off here, we're going to be potentially looking for some support around $50 and then all the way down to 45. As you can see, Facebook, which again I don't use and I'm a huge fan of at all, has been very choppy and somewhat in a downward trend here because you can kind of see the 5 and 8 continue to kind of grind lower here, potentially looking for some support in the short term around 267. We did see that low around 260 in the short term. I'm kind of hitting off that 144 here as well and potentially looking for a bounce here. Really need to see this above 275 and really try to test and break back above 280. Yeah, Twitter doesn't thrill me either. Like, I don't know what to say about that. Let's see here. Plug. Yeah, we talked about Plug. So Plug, fantastic, wonderful surprise. South Korean venture firm or early stage, not early stage firm, capital firm injected quite a few billions of dollars in this, like 1.5, 1.6 billion. So a lot of cash here. Huge moves higher, large gap ups here. I want to be very mindful of these large gap ups here and looking for a potential maybe base building around 52. But if it wants to continue going higher, we're looking for 60 to 65. But that being said, I'm a little bit not skeptical. I think there's the large move has already been in. Maybe kind of be trading sideways, maybe pull back a little bit to around the 50 to 48 range to kind of wait for the moving averages to kind of catch up here. So we're just going to kind of go TED dates as QS going down. I think QS could potentially show some further downside support, potentially around 53, if the 5 and 8 moving average continue to carry it down. If not, we need to start seeing it back above 70. Someone asked about BYND. So Beyond Meat, this is not looking pretty at all here. We're looking for a continuous downtrend here. Again, this is the path of least resistance. We're seeing the 5 and 8 continue to grind lower here, just like FedEx. It's the charts somewhat the same, just pointing that aggressive moving averages down, just being really showing that overall downward pressure going through here. GP, very interesting stock as well. Green Power here, looking for this trend to continue. If we start seeing the 5 and 8 to carry us higher here, looking for some initial support at $30. That $30 holds. We're looking for some longer dated targets around $34 to $41 for GS. We just did QS as well. So RMO, I'm going through these really fast here. RMO, a large move higher, coming back down, looking for some initial support around $20 where the 34 EMA lies. If we do get a break below that, we potentially could see it well below $17 to $16. We did that JAGX. So this one is not, I can't add too much to this one. This is a complete FOMO trade, and it's just way out of my wheelhouse. I can't really add too much to that one at well. SNDL is another penny stock as well, but again, this is with a pharmaceutical or the weed stuff. I'm initially looking for this to break. If it does break above 70 cents, we could see that potentially test $1 to 95 cents, but downward support around 50 cents there to the 21 EMA. Alan S., I'm going to bounce. Thank you, Alan. Domino's has been ordered, and it's time to binge some shows all night. Remember, no matter what your friends say, this is not as fun as they tell you. Oh, wow. What show are you watching, Alan? I watched a really good show with my wife the other day on HBO. It's called Successions. It's such a good movie. I mean, series. There's a lot of cursing in there, though, so I don't know if you're up to that. SKLZ. Oops. Yeah, SKLZ. This is one that's definitely been bought by Kathy Wood quite a bit in their ARK funds. Again, really looking for that 21 EMA to hold around that $19 to $20 level if we do get a pullback at that range. But looking for some longer dated targets around $25 to $28 for initial targets if that does get a nice rise higher. JMIA, looking at this one as well, kind of been beaten up, kind of been left out to dry a little bit. This was a very hot stock going into the holiday season. It has hit that 34 EMA here, looking for initially trying to break above 40, which is having a little bit of issues here. But if it, long as it stays above the 21 EMA and the 5 and 8 moving averages don't aggressively point through the 21, even to the 34, we could see some potentially base building here and maybe seeing a potentially try to kick higher or lower depending on where that wants to move. Mandalorian, Alan, enjoy it. If you haven't seen that yet, I love it. It's been fantastic. TRXC, we have done that multiple times. I can't add too much to that one. It's too much of a penny stock. eBay. What's that been up to? Interesting. Very choppy here. Some overhead pressure around 55 and some downward support at 50. So really kind of waiting for that move to potentially break out or break lower, honestly, for eBay. But the trend looks like it wants to potentially break out. A UNH, a United Healthcare Group. even with the Democrats winning, I'm surprised to see this quite move higher here. If we break above 367, this definitely could run with some targets around 416 to the upside. I know this is not a Tesla or anything. It's a healthcare stock, but again, heads up, we do have earnings on the horizon for that one. BILI, this swing has been completely gone gangbusters here. Really holding not even the 8 EMA, it's been holding the 5 EMA and just continue to grind higher. We have, again, starting to hit that bought on the RSI and the volumes on oscillator. So around 120 to 125, we could be potentially getting some consolidation or even a pullback. So be mindful of that. Initially support around 110 to 108, and then potentially back down to 92 if we do get any kind of pullback. PFE, again, Pfizer. That being said, this thing has been pulled back even though their vaccine has been approved and so forth. We're looking for some initial support around 37. We do have some potential. We do have earnings coming out as well here, and looking to potentially trade sideways into earnings. If we do get any kind of movement, we need to see the 5 and 8 cross through the 21 EMA with some overhead pressure around $39 to $50. Guys, on that note, I'm going to end it with NIO real fast. A lot of people asked about that one. With that being said, we're looking for that movement potentially, depending on how the news goes, we could see it up to 65 plus. And if the people not well received, we could see it definitely back down to 53, even $50 from that move there. Guys, on that note, I've been streaming for a little over 2 hours, so nearly 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I want to thank you, everyone. I definitely want to live stream more. So once this video does go up and moving, or if you join the Discord, I would love to know what other times you would like to see the stream. Would you like to see it on like a Monday night, a Wednesday evening? Again, with full perspective that I do have a full-time job during the normal working hours, so I have to give my undivided attention to that rather than doing the live stream. So guys, on that one, thank you. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe on the way out the door. And if you're interested, we have the Discord as well if you want to join there, completely free, and we always can continue the conversation there. All right, guys, catch you guys on the flip side. Peace and good night and safe trading this week.